Nation, as you might imagine, now we have finally made it to what you would call the meat of the order, the main events of the evening. There's actually two of them. This is the first. Now, for those of you viewing this in the future, this video was originally uploaded during the 24 hours of Cover Killer Nation that took place on June the 20th and 21st of 2013. Hello from the past, but it's time for us to talk about this album. This is really a review for any day. We're talking about Deceiver of the Gods, the new release as of 2013 by the band Amon Amarth. Now, a couple of years ago in 2011, whenever Amon Amarth's last album, Search Arising, came out, the review was extremely positive. This was the first time Amon had ever been captured on a video in a review form for Cover Killer Nation. It's the first real opportunity that I had to talk about the guys. It was a new album, so of course it was something where there was a tremendous response by a lot of you guys. And because of that, we were able to really grow a lot, and we learned a lot in that video, and I was really very positive about that album because I liked what the band was able to do. So here it is 2 years later, and of course I'm excited to review Deceiver of the Gods, considering I had such a great experience with Search Arising, and I had always kind of enjoyed their discography, even the ones that weren't that great. I still was able to find at least a little something that was able to captivate my interest a little bit. Deceiver of the Gods kind of had some heavy shoes to fill for me, but for a lot of other people, it really it's not as heavy. In fact, it's something where these guys have kind of, in their mind at least, been in a bit of a creative rut, which you can kind of understand because everybody's going to have their individual opinions, as you know, motorcycles cascade outside, something they didn't have in the ages in which they're talking about in this album. However, the Viking metal boys definitely have gotten a lot of praise and a lot of fans over the course of the past couple of years. A lot of people also call these guys melodic death metal, but think about it. Just think about it for a little while. It doesn't suit the tone, I understand that, but let's not make, let's make applesauce out of apples instead of trying to make orange juice is, I guess, the best way to put it. With Deceiver of the Gods, though, this 10-track affair, the one thing that I've noted is that it really takes quite a while, at least whenever I listen through it, in order for it to kind of pick up a little bit. And this isn't any sort of knock on the pacing or anything like that. This is just more so how this album feels whenever you kind of cycle through it. I mean, the riffing is still very, very solid, and the ideas seem to have a lot of potential to captivate a lot of people. But if you've listened to a couple of Amon albums before, it's one thing where you start to realize and recognize that this is starting to become a little bit of an old hat idea, kind of an old hat tradition where they kind of stick with this very similar tempo, they kind of stick with this very similar musical idea whenever they're in the construction process, and there isn't a grand amount of deviation from that, and that's something that actually can really work to an album's benefit if it's something that really captivates a lot of people and really always seems to find a way to maintain its freshness, which for some people this is certainly going to be true for Amon Amarth, considering they are very akin to this style. I know a couple people that are like this, so those individuals will certainly, they'll really enjoy this album, either that or even if they were to judge it with a bit of a more harsh and unbiased tone, will still probably find favor as opposed to not finding favor in it. For myself personally, as I kind of drifted through this release, I kind of found myself getting a little bit, restless a little bit restless or listless, because with Search Arising and with other albums prior to by Amon Amarth, there was always something early on that kind of captivated me and really kind of grabbed my attention and made me want to continue and remain engaged with the album. And with this album, with Deceiver of the Gods, I really just I don't feel that happened quickly enough, for one, and for two, the moments that really attempted to convey that didn't do so with the same element of absolute essential listening that other albums had really done in the past. Now, this is not necessarily to say that this is a really negative album. It's not necessarily to say that this is a bad album by any stretch of the imagination. It's a decent release. However, I do believe that most of this is going to seem to a lot of people that perhaps look at this a little bit more unbiased, and they are kind of just a casual fan of this band as business as usual and nothing special. I have this profound feeling that that's going to be the general consensus. Now, for myself personally, I unfortunately have to lump myself into that group because, as I said, nothing seemed to captivate me initially whenever I listened to this release. Nothing really jutted out and kind of grabbed me, shook me, and took me on a journey that was kind of one of a kind or unique or, really gave me a good sound excuse to continue onward with the experience. Now, for those of you who, at this moment of time, at this thought process, would have probably turned the record off, it's best that you don't, principally because we have a guest on track number 8 on Hell. We have Messiah, formerly of Candlemass, which makes a guest spot, and some of these lyrics that I hear are kind of just... I understand that they're trying to, do this very directly, almost as though they're speaking in term of legend. However, it's something where it's not necessarily done with a lot of... what's the word I'm thinking of? Lyrical tact, I guess, is the best way to put it. It's very basic, it's very to the point, it's very direct, and a lot of people like that, so there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, you almost, whenever you kind of hear the rhyme structure coming before it happens, or at least the lyrical structure before it happens, you tend to not really find as much favor into it, at least if you're somebody like me. Now, Messiah's vocals are, principally on the chorus or, bridge, whatever you would like to call that moment of the track. And they're fairly decent. However, it is a little bit descended deep into the mix. And once again, it just feels like it's, there's not a lot of tact to it. It's very direct. It's, there's not much that you really say because it is just that, that's just the representation of it. But whenever you get to the Coming of the Tide and Warriors of the North, the last 2 tracks on this album, which span a greater part of 12 minutes of this release, so thus making it one of the larger cycles that the album is able to boast, considering most of the tracks hover at right around 4 minutes in length, this is really where the album starts to open up, especially with Warriors of the North. I've always really liked with these guys whenever they've been able to expand their compositions, and this is something I believe I even mentioned in the Search of Rising review. I really like it whenever they're able to expand their compositions and really draw it out and do everything musically that and composition-wise that they really can showcase and really show their potential. Now this is happening in a more traditional setting where you see usually the most exploration or the risk take on the very final track of the album, whereas this is not really that much of a musical risk. This is something that they've done in the past. However, this is just the track that really seems to be the focal point, the centerpiece of the release, and definitely the one that's going to captivate the most attention. It's going to leave a lot of people on a very, very high note, considering this is probably one of the best songs, if not the best song on the album, Warriors of the North, that is. So overall, where does that really place this? Does that actually make this album a disappointment? It's really going to be in the eye of the beholder and the ear of the listener on this one, because for me at least, I mean, I've always kind of found something that has captivated me. I've always found something that has at least made each passing album listenable. And this is one that's certainly no different. But as far as giving it a high score, it's definitely not going to happen. I would probably give this album a 7 out of 10. Principally because I feel that there's a lot more that could have been done in order to really craft a beast of a record. Especially after a beast such as Search of Rising. And really to reinvigorate fans after a long 2-year layoff. There's also just a lot of positive things that could be said, such as with the inclusion of Warriors of the North, with the inclusion of Messiah, and with a couple of the other tracks such as Shapeshifter or Under Siege, and even Blood Eagle. I mean, there's still some fairly decent material on here, but it's really just a captivation thing, and it's going to be something that's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but overall, at least for me, this is definitely not an album that I would recommend as highly as I did Search of Rising. Amon Amarth fans, of course, are going to rejoice at this record because of its availability. Just the fact that it's new Amon material, and that's understandable, and that's fantastic. However, for the casual listener that really wants to know whether or not they should pick this one up, my recommendation would be to sample a couple of tracks for yourself prior to making the purchase. But at the same time also still consider the fact that this may also be an album that requires a little bit of growing pains in order to really expose itself to you. Either that or this will be growing pains that just seem to last forever. Overall, though, I mean, it's Amon Amarth. It's really hard to argue with them. They definitely have a very direct approach to their music, and they definitely have found something that works and seem to want to drive to continue to do that. And you really can't take that away from them. That's a fantastic attitude to have. Though I would like to see a little bit more done. That's not in my place to really suggest or demand. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Deceiver of the Gods by Amon Amarth. Give it a listen. Give it something. Give it a little bit of attention. See if you like it, and if you do, then come out and pick this album out. It's coming out. Pick this album up, not pick this album out. It is coming out rather on June the 25th here in America. The 24th in other countries. It may even be out today, June the 21st, in some countries of the world. Peace.